Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, it's me, Bruce from Radical X Games, bringing you another episode of Buried. Okay, so when we left off, we left Dennis behind. I believe that's going to be his death. The entities are going to get him and Marcus, thankfully. Marcus, you shrivelly little bitch, you will die. Okay, so here we go, we're playing the game. Wow, that was kind of intense. The ride up the elevator is tense. I take a series of deep breaths, doing everything I can to stay in control. Amy has gotten back to her feet, but her head is pressed against the elevator wall as she suppresses a series of sobs. I find myself trying to remember the way those creatures looked, but my mind seems to shudder at the effort. I have seen something that is an impossibility, a mockery of what I know is real. This fills me with a terror that dwarfs anything else I have felt since discovering the facility. I try to focus my mind on something else and remember Marcus's threats. I wonder if we'll see Marcus again, I say mostly to myself.
Do you think Marcus got away from those things?
Amy asks.
Me too, she says,
looking at the ground, her arms folded. So, I say, how did you end up here? She gives a nervous chuckle and shrugs.
I used to work with the Pentagon. It was some pretty upper echelon stuff that I still can't discuss.
I assume this place is even more upper echelon, I said.
This place isn't even on the scale, she answers. My other job was a cakewalk compared to this.
Then why stay? I ask.
Because the money is ridiculous. I have the 13-year-old daughter already talking about Harvard. You do the math.
Harvard, huh? That's ambitious. Or any other kids? Wanna have some kids with this creepy stranger you met today?
Oh, I know. She's a force of nature. Her dad ran off when she was 3. So for a long time, it's been just her and me.
Amy pauses before continuing softly.
What if I never see?
Her voice breaks off, the words too terrible to say. Her eyes fill with tears. The elevator comes to a stop as the slight ding of the interrupting the moment. Amy hastily wipes her eyes, and we waste no time in getting back inside the command center. Don't worry, Amy, we'll get you back home. We'll get you back home. Dennis is dead, but we'll get you back home. Oh, we might be able to get Dennis home too. I don't know. Hopefully. Hopefully everyone that's not Marcus gets out. I ready the rifle, suddenly certain that there are more of those creatures waiting for us in the hallway of the second level. But the way is clear, allowing us to haul ass to the command center. Once again, I find myself staring at the screen that shows my route and work site.
Okay,
Amy says, typing commands rapidly.
It can't be that hard.
I keep peeking over my shoulder, my senses feeling as if the monsters are sneaking up on us, mere inches away. I then think of Dennis and wonder how he is faring back at the level 3. Is he safe? I look back to the screens and see that Amy has finally found what she is looking for. A prompt on the screen says override of hangar doors and all level 3 locks require clearance code. Amy types in a number with shaking fingers and the screen goes blank for a moment. The moment the words override confirmed come up on the screen, Amy jumps up from the chair and heads out of the room.
We have to be quick, she says. We have exactly 20 minutes to open those hangar doors.
That was 20 minutes, whoa!
The locks will kick in again, she says. Security measure. I couldn't do anything about it.
I follow her out of the command center and bound back down the hallway towards the same elevator that brought us here. Amy punches the elevator button and the doors slide open. We're still taking the same elevator back to the biochem room? I ask. Those creatures are still down there.
It's the only way back down, she says. The only way is blocked by those hydraulic doors we pulled. Hopefully the creatures left.
Hopefully. Neither of us say anything else as we share a look of immense dread. We step back into the elevator and head back down to the biochem room on level 3. Ah, that's good. Oh, it's empty. Look at that. As the elevator's doors open, we peer out, looking to see if the creatures are still in the area. But it's all clear. When Amy looks to me, her eyes are clear and strong.
Marcus wasn't entirely wrong,
Amy says as we start walking back towards the hangar doors. About what? I ask.
About how I am partially to blame for this.
You're right, you are.
Some of the things we do here, it's scary. We should have known that one day something like this would happen. Everyone here with knowledge of what goes on in Level 3 is to blame, she says. It's a highly advanced research facility, I say. Doing amazing but risky stuff. So yeah, you're partially to blame by just working here, but I can understand the dedication. So why don't you tell me a bit more about what does go on in Level 3, I ask. Are you familiar with the Large Hadron Collider over in Switzerland?
I've heard the phrase, but that's about it, I say.
It's a powerful particle accelerator, she explains. Right now, they're using it to try to create what's called dark matter. It's theorized that this dark matter actually makes up the majority of the universe, but parts of the universe are very different from ours. My guess is that people in the LHC will probably create their first dark matter particle in about 2018 or 2019. That's next year! Ah, I'm so excited! Here in this facility, we were able to create one almost 10 years ago. It was the key to our research. Does this have something to do with those things? What does this matter do? Yeah, let's go with that one. Well, we still don't know all there is about dark matter or other matter we have yet to identify. Those creatures could have made it, or could be made of it, or maybe there's some even more exotic matter we just don't know. If dark matter is responsible, there are no real answers to have.
I scratch my head. So you're saying this dark matter helps with what? Opening up other dimensions or something?
That's the theory, she says. During the point-to-point transfer, the subjects are gone for about 3 to 6 seconds. There's no way to see or measure their presence, but they exist somewhere. From what we can tell, they exist in a kind of void. People! We have sent human subjects through. Almost all of them have returned successfully.
I make the involuntary grimace. Almost.
There was one man, Dr. Kahana, who didn't return. We don't know where.
She trails off, taking a moment to collect herself. Sorry I asked, I say, feeling my mind start to bend inward again. As we continue to walk between the silos, we walk past the area where we left Marcus behind. But he's long gone. Maybe he found a way out. I realize that we are walking very close together between the silos, perhaps trying to create the illusion of safety. We reach the exit connecting to the hangar doors, where Dennis hopefully still is. My guts clench and my heart hammers in my chest as we open the door and walk through. I lift the rifle, but at first it seems that there is nothing waiting for us. And that's when I see the glowing, hulking shape to my left, closing in fast.
Oh no! They got him!
The creature is about 10 feet away and coming in quickly, so I do the first thing that comes to mind. I drop to the ground, making myself a smaller target, and raise the rifle. I'm not sure if I should just unload on the bastard or try to be choosy with my shots and weaken it, or at least slow it down.
Shoot to kill! It's not gonna kill it.
The beast is less than a foot away from me when I start firing rapidly. I'm not sure which is louder, the gunshot or the high-pitched screeching the creature staggers. With that, it seems to turn and jerk away, parts of it appearing and disappearing every few feet. It moves down the hall and out of sight. Apparently, even several rounds of bullets are only enough to slow these things down. I look quickly around for others, but there is only Amy. She looks at where the monster went with wide eyes. Her face is pale, and I wonder if, like me, she is able to feel her mind trying to retreat.
Yes,
Amy says.
I'm fine.
But if she feels anything like I feel, I don't believe her. Come on, I say. Let's find Dennis and get through these hangar doors.
Amy glances at her watch and nods. We're already down to 6 minutes.
We turn towards the hangar doors, and I'm a little disgusted with myself because the bloody scene that so shocked me before now seems mild. Amy goes to work on the computer console on the side of the doors, and she starts punching in keys before saying,
This is going to take some time.
I thought you already unlocked it, I asked.
I did, she says. But for this door, there's still security permissions. I need some hack. Marcus would have known how to do this.
She trails off, and I decide to let her work. Suddenly, something slams into me. I feel my feet leave the floor, and I am literally thrown across the concrete. I look up in time to see one of the creatures. It's apparently in no hurry to attack me again, focusing on Amy instead. She's not armed. I need to come up with a plan to get this thing away from her so she can focus on getting the door open. It raises one of its flickering appendages, making me certain that part of its makeup is pure light and energy. I could easily take a shot with my rifle, but my mind again goes to how much remaining ammo I have. The only other thing I can think of is to get it to chase me and lead it away from this room somewhere.
Shoot the monster, because just distracting it's not going to help.
I lift the rifle groggily and fire as quickly as I can. Not having good footing and still reeling from the attack, the aim is off, but the noise of it distracts the monster from Amy. The monster turns to me, and I am again face to face with something that has no business being in this world, in this reality. Its body gives off a sort of glow around the central part of a bulbous core that is branched off into two humps, very much like a spider. Again, I sense that this visual information is not accurate, but it's the best I can do to make sense of this impossible creature. I pull the trigger again, this shot taking the monster directly in the center. It spams backwards and lets out a shriek of agony that makes my ears feel like they'll explode. From somewhere very close by, another creature cries out in response. "You okay?" I ask Amy. I can clearly see her battling her control her facilities. Steel determination wins out, and she gives a grim nod. "Any sign of where Dennis went?" I ask, hoping she hasn't noticed his body somewhere.
No,
she replies. It's then that I realize that I have no idea how many rounds I have remaining in the rifle. This isn't a model I'm familiar with. Outside of some deer hunting, I'm not much of an expert on firearms. Still, I'm able to locate the chamber easily to see that there were only 2 rounds left. I silently curse myself for being too trigger-happy earlier. "How are we on time?" I ask her.
4 minutes. I'm going as fast as I can,
she says. Amy does her best to focus on the keyboard, but there is still no sign of Dennis. Before I have time to look around, a screeching sound erupts from the other end of the room. I bring the rifle up in a shooter stance and turn around. With the hangar doors right behind me, no signs of Dennis, and a closing window of time, I have to be confident. Yet when 2 monsters come around the corner, my body wants to shut down. The appendages seem to jump in time and space, reaching out for a split second, independent of the body, and then disappearing back to where they came from. It turns and screeches at me, its glowing tentacles snaking out of its body. My knees tremble uncontrollably. Behind me, Amy shrieks. I feel myself losing control, my mind sliding into the abyss of insanity. I pull myself back from the brink. I've got to stay in control. I could stand here and use my last 2 shots, but what good would that do? So instead I turn to face the hangar doors. "How much longer before you can open these things?"
Not long,
she says, furiously typing into the terminal as commands flood the screen. I doubt it. I think to myself. "Can I do anything to help?" I ask. She doesn't answer. Deep in concentration, I turn back around and see a looming shape appear. The creature comes around the corner, screaming out that static-like sound. I step away from Amy and the hangar doors and towards the monster, ready to defend her. I ready my rifle, but the creature wastes no time. It makes that jerky motion towards me, and there's a sharp pain in my chest as it collides with me. Or through me. It's hard to tell. My instinct is to try to grapple or hold with this thing down, but then I realize I don't even know if that will work. Oh my god. I'm gonna sacrifice myself here. I try to grapple with the creature, but it feels very different from my struggle with Marcus earlier. It's not easily grabbed. My fingers slide through parts of it, some parts like a ghost, others like a jellyfish. Touching it burns my hands, but only slightly. When I realize I can't grip it, I quickly spring away and turn to face it. With a scream of defiance, I raise the rifle and put a round in its core. The shot lands dead center, and the light inside of it flickers almost violently. It falls back against the wall, issuing a hiss of its telltale static noise. It then jerks away and retreats, at least for now. Another terror appears as if out of nowhere, screaming at me with its high-pitched whine. It bounds forward, charging in its strange, spastic way. I aim the rifle, intending to take this one in the core too. I take several shots, but it's still coming at me. As it slams into me, I pull the trigger again and realize that my rifle is now empty. On contact, the wind is knocked out of my lungs and the back of my head strikes the floor, but neither of these things is as alarming as the fact that the beast is on top of me. Its exterior is like a seashell that has been pounded by the surf for so long that it has lost all edges and ridges. But the grip it tries to capture me with is pure violence. I feel those light-soaked appendages start to wrap around me. I raise the rifle knowing it is empty, but hoping to use it as a wedge to push the thing off of me. The weight of the monster is erratic. One moment I feel weightless. Another I feel like I'm going to be crushed. I push upwards with the rifle. The monster budges a bit, but almost seems to absorb it, wrapping or warping it into its grip. I see the core of its body, a spider-like shape, connected to the rest of it by thin white strings of tissue. I'll be dead within seconds unless I can fend off or get help. Okay, so everyone read that, right? The part where it says he took several shots, but he only had 2 shots left in the gun. He had two shots left in the gun, and he fired several shots after firing a shot already at the other creature. So I'm just pointing it out there now. This is just there's some facts. There's some issues with the storytelling in this. Just something to say quick. I mean, I am enjoying this. It's really fun. Like I said before, I love these choices matter games. It's just you have to be very consistent with your storytelling. It's just something that needs to be going on if you're going to have a storytelling experience. It's just something quick to say. Okay, release rifle and punch it. Sounds like a legit. I do my best to give one last heave to push it off, but my hands melt through. I curse myself for wasting so many bullets earlier. 2 of its appendages wrap around my left shoulder, and I feel a white-hot pain fill my body. The tentacles burn, and I realize that some are actually going through my shoulder, like a kid pulling apart the stitches of a doll. But then I see the creature extend its tentacles in aggravation while making that static screeching sound. The creature flickers, releasing me suddenly. With a shudder and a cry of desperation, I roll away from it and see that a large hole has appeared in its luminous core. The creature disappears into thin air and reappears a few feet from me, retreating back towards the biochem room. Amy looks over at me from her terminal at the hangar doors, looking petrified. Dennis stands several feet away, holding a shotgun. He walks slowly towards us and is clearly just as scared out of sorts as we are. You okay, boss? He asks, but his eyes aren't on me. They are looking up to the creature, trying to understand exactly what he's just seen. About 15 minutes ago, I heard the door to the maintenance room unlock. Dennis says, pointing to the room I tried to bust my way into earlier. Ah, Amy says. When I did the override in the command center, it unlocked all the small doors down here, including that maintenance door. I went back in there and hid. Dennis continues, and while I was waiting for you to come back, I found a massive trunk. There were a few guns in it, so I grabbed this one, he says, patting the shotgun. Glad you're safe. God damn. Thanks, boss, he says. Me too. She doesn't break eye contact with the panel. Almost done, she replies. Suddenly, without warning, a shot ricochets off the wall behind Amy's head. Startled, we looked around, confused. Did Dennis's gun go off? When another shot blasts near us again, we all drop to the floor. I look around, wondering who or what could possibly be shooting at us. Those creatures don't do anything that sounds remotely like gunfire. And then I see him. Marcus. I should have killed him when I had the chance. He has a rifle and is walking towards us, an insane look in his eyes. You all deserve to die, he screams, unleashing another round that I hear whiz by my head. Dennis doesn't hesitate. He stands up and shoots at Marcus, causing him to retreat. I'm sorry, I'm doing my best, she says, fighting through tears. I'm sorry.
She makes a few final key presses and says, "Done." The doors open with the noise of hydraulics and a whoosh of air. With Marcus pinned down by Dennis's gunfire, we start moving towards the doors. At that moment, another creature jerks into existence around the corner between us and Marcus. "Shit," Marcus says and starts unloading into it. But then he learns the same lesson we did. This only slows the creature down. Marcus gives us one last look and then turns and runs off in another direction. Dennis, Amy, and I climb up and head through the doors, moving on nothing more than adrenaline. I see her look longingly at the maintenance room Dennis took the shotgun from. "You get into the hangar," Dennis says. "I'll get some more firepower." Satisfied with the plan, Amy heads through the door. We scramble inside, finally inside the hangar. Dennis approaches from behind, holding several guns and looking like a kid who will grab an armful of Halloween candy. Amy reaches out for a 9mm with one hand. Dennis turns to me and holds out a shotgun and a handgun for me to choose. Both look deadly. The shotgun looks more powerful and the handgun will probably be more precise. Yeah, but the shotgun's more powerful, and in being a fan of the Resident Evil series, I know the shotgun is going to be my best friend near the ending of this game. I took the shotgun. I take the shotgun, surprised at how heavy it feels, but also invigorated by its weight. There are more creatures coming, as many as a dozen. They are floating down the hall quickly, their tentacles slithering. The way their light seems to mingle together is almost beautiful. "Close the door!" "Oh, close the door," I yell at Amy. She dashes to another terminal mounted on the inside of the hangar doors and tries desperately to close them. "It's not working," she says with tears in her eyes. "This terminal is disabled." Dennis looks through the open doors, readying himself to shoot the first monster and then nears us. Should we try to slow a few down or just run for it?" he asks, his gun at the ready. We're gonna have to run because we're not gonna get that door shut." "Good idea," says Amy. With that, we turn around and sprint out onto the hangar floor. Ooh. See, yeah, I said there was 3 at first. Now there's a dozen. See, once again, the inconsistent storytelling. The room is enormous, so large that to call it in a room seems silly. A large concrete floor stretches out below an expansive lofted ceiling. The area is mostly empty, except for one side, which has rows and rows of metal barrels. Back on the far wall is a lit area that seems to expose more rooms, labs, and machinery. Also in the rear of the hangar, I can see some kind of chamber or control center. Dennis and I follow Amy across the hangar floor. Behind us, a series of rough, slithering sounds tells us that the creatures have made their way into the hangar. From somewhere up ahead, a loud buzzing noise sounds out. It reminds me of the slight buzzing noise I'd heard in the forest, the noise that I've tried to avoid. I look ahead to see that there is in the far back of the hangar, a bright red light is flashing. There is a small hatch or door below the light. That light is open, and I can see a shape inside of it. I can barely make out the figure of a man standing there holding an industrial microphone, and as soon as I see him, I hear this huge amplified voice. It blares down over the intercom system, and he sounds pissed. "I don't know who the hell you are," he says, "but this is a government facility in the lockdown, and there are protocols to shit." I assume the curse coincides with the exact moment he sees the creatures. They are making their way through the hangar doors. There are about 20 feet between us and the creatures. I act instinctively, squeezing off 2 shots with the shotgun. The first sprays low, hitting the floor and causing a shower of sparks, but the second shot causes one monster to jerk backwards. It's a good thing that a shotgun is quite forgiving. Amy and Dennis take the cue and start firing as well. The floor becomes littered with a swirling white fluid from the wounded creature's body. But they are not slowing down. The alarm keeps shrieking behind us, and when I turn to see if anything has changed back there, I trip over my feet. I hit the floor hard, and it is in an almost conic fashion, slides several feet across the floor. From the ground, I see that we have managed to turn back 4 of them, but I also see that my estimate of a dozen is off. There are at least 20 of them. Their sick, dim light, sinister and gloomy. Their appendages seem to bind together as they come forward.
My only hope of survival is that the man in the far doorway has somehow shut the hangar door. His voice comes blaring over the intercom again, broken by the booming noise of the gunfire that we are laying down. Run here! Towards the isolation chamber! I'm not sure how much time we have. I realize that I can sprint ahead of Amy and Dennis, or I can hang back and give them cover. Not ahead. Don't go ahead. Go inside where that guy is, I say. I'll make sure that we don't have any of those things right on our tails. I'll hold them back for a while. I know it sounds macho, but it also feels like the right thing to do. I have to at least try to give us some kind of chance for escape. So, as Amy and Dennis run through the doors, I blast at the next thing that I see moving. All I get over for my troubles is that static-like hiss and a high-pitched whistling noise. I'm able to beat them back a bit, forcing them to scatter. Each flicker of light is a small victory. If nothing else, I'm buying Amy and Dennis time. When I'm certain there is nothing more I can do, I turn and run. I hustle quickly, catching up to Amy and Dennis, who stop and turn to provide me with cover fire. There, Amy says, pointing it to the small door where the man was standing earlier. The swarm is less than 15 feet away from now, so furious that they are pushing through one another to get to us. I fire, still not quite used to the kick of the shotgun. I aim for the core of one, but the shot hits low. Still, it knocks the bastard back, giving me time to readjust. We are in the middle of that hangar floor now, with the isolation chamber ahead and the monsters behind. Beside me, Dennis also fires. The kick of the gun jolts him, probably a result of him being weakened from the blood loss. His shot lands true, though, causing a jerking stumble and a flickering of its light. We're almost in! Amy yells as we get close to the door and we hope will save us. Get inside, I yell. I tell Amy and Dennis, motioning for them to get moving with my gun. I open the door and give Dennis a push forward. He resists, more eager to try taking down another of the beasts before he makes it to safety, but he eventually gives in. I wait a beat to make sure Amy is inside too. I fire off a few rounds on the creatures that are still headed for us, hoping to slow them down. When Amy and Dennis clear the door, I nearly dash inside, but then feel something hot steep into my back. Roger! Dennis yells. The pain in my back is so immense I barely notice the fact that I am being lifted from the floor. I look down and see that one of the creatures is using its floating arms to grab me by my waist, its tentacles wrapping around me. It lifts me into the air as if presenting me as a trophy to its friends. I can't angle the shotgun to fire off a round, so I bring the stock of it down the monster's translucent, smooth body. It's like striking at fog. My attack was very little effect. As it continues to hoist me up, screeching its approval, Dennis comes back out of the room and fires off a shot. The bullet catches the monster on the underside of its core, sending it backwards and causing it to freeze for a moment. It releases me and I hit the ground, dropping my gun and again finding myself unable to breathe. I feel slightly dizzy, but that fades when I see Dennis is still standing outside the door. He's firing into the beast like a madman and doesn't see that one of his left, and the one to his left, coming in along the edge of the wall. Hearing my voice, he turns to look directly at me, but this is the opposite of what he needs to do. Behind him, the creature glides up, shaking back and forth in space as it moves. By the time Dennis turns and sees the creature coming, it has already drawn several of its appendages back to strike. Dennis tries to raise his gun, but it's knocked away by one of the tentacles. A second tentacle strikes, and Dennis is spun around and thrown off balance by the attack. Dennis catches himself before falling. A third tentacle wraps around Dennis's forearm, and I can see it squeeze, tightening instantly. The tip of the appendage passes clean through his hand, its blood-soaked tip poking out through his palm. Dennis's face grimaces with pain as he tries to wrench his arm free, but the creature's tentacle has his hand spread like a nail through wood. In a moment of dark clarity, I realize that I can free him with a clean shot at the monster's tentacle, but it will likely mean blowing Dennis's hand off. Dennis! I yell over the creature's high-pitched static sound. Can you get free? I have a shot. Maybe. No! He gasps as the creature tosses him around by his hand like a puppet. Don't shoot! I can get free! I can't tell if he's right, but the other monsters are starting to encircle him. I need to act fast. I guess... Wait! He says he can. Dennis is fighting hard, doing everything he can to bring the gun around with his good hand. He's screaming as he tries to tear his hand away, screaming in both fury and desperation. This only seems to anger the creature, which then swats Dennis with another of its tentacles, opening a deep gash across his chest. His skin peels back and his eyes go wide with shock. The creature drops him to the ground as if playing with him, and then the floor and space around Dennis seems to warp. The bottom quarter of his body seems to disappear before I realize it's been merged with the floor. Oh! And at that moment I know, it's over. 3 others swarm him, surrounding what remains of his fallen body. I don't even hear Dennis scream. There's just a frenzy of the crackling, sickening wail sound. After that, there is nothing else. Fury, sorrow, and absolute rage surge through my heart. I grab my gun as the remaining beasts come towards me. They'll kill me, but I don't care. This is war. As far as I'm concerned, this is. Amy grabs me from behind and pulls me hard inside. I try fighting her off, but she's persistent, and part of my mind knows she's right. Don't be an idiot, she yells to me. She practically throws me through the doorway. As I fall, I hear her fire off 2 shots before slamming the door closed behind her. I watch blearily as she punches a few buttons on the control pad on the wall. This is followed by a metallic click as the door locks. We are safe in the chamber, but Dennis is gone. Wow. Oh, I could have saved him. I really could have saved him. Oh. We are now inside a large reinforced chamber of sorts, almost like the inside of a submarine. Near us is the door shut tight. Far away from us, along the back wall, are all sorts of controls and monitors. It seems clear that this metal door is impenetrable, at least to them. I'm fairly sure that they aren't getting in. Dennis, I say. I'm sorry, Amy says. I'm sorry for pulling you back, but you were walking into your death out there. I know, I say, but that doesn't make it any easier. I couldn't quite see, but it looked like you may have had a shot. Why didn't you take it? Amy asked. You told me not to shoot. Roger, Amy says. My God, I'm sorry. He's dead, I say, hoping that speaking the words will help me understand what just happened. I came through all of this to try to save him, and he's dead. How did this happen? Why did I listen to him? Out of nowhere, an image of Dennis pumping his fist after winning a game of pool pops into my head. I can reconcile that happy image with what I just saw. I feel myself zoning out, wanting to just give up, but I'm stubborn, and the fact that Dennis is dead is a cruel motivator. I have to get out there. Get out of here, I say. What I don't say is that I have to get out of here, so that all of this trouble will have been worth something. We are interrupted by a man's voice booming ahead of us, moving behind us. What the hell do you think you're doing? The man roars. He's an older man who seems to exude power and authority, but he also looks tired and scared. I assume this is Barksdale. He walks over to us from the back recess of the chamber. We didn't have a choice, Amy responds. We had to. Did you override the locks on the hangar door? Barksdale demands. Yes, I did, but we had to. Do you have any idea what you could have done? Amy doesn't answer right away. She's furious, but she is also scared and visibly exhausted. I address my question to Amy, preferring to get my info from her rather than whoever this is. The man doesn't break eye contact with Amy. Colonel Barksdale. Oh, Colonel Barksdale. He runs the place, she says, annoyed. Look, Barksdale, she says. You can berate me and lecture me all you want when this mess is over. But right now I have the wounded civilian here and
as you can see, several entities trying to get into this room. So if you could actually do something instead of sitting on your throne and yelling at me, that would be great.
I'm impressed by her guts and wonder if there is some sort of beef between the two of them. Surely working in a place like this could cause some stress and tension between people. As we wait, I notice a small peephole in the door. I go to it and look out to the things. They're still looking for a way in, but finding no success. I wonder if they can sense or somehow see me through the door.
Flip him the bird. Boom!
I can't help myself. I hold up my middle finger to one and smile defiantly. I get a blast of high-pitched sound in response.
You'll be reprimanded for speaking to me in such a way, Barksdale says to Amy. Reprimand me all you want. I'd like to survive this first.
Cover your ears, Barksdale shouts, walking away towards the far end of the room. Stay put until you hear back from me.
Thank you, Amy says with fire in her voice.
She then turns to me and says,
better do what the man says.
I guess. I clap my hands over my ears just in time to protect my hearing from a deafening blast. I can still feel my blood rushing out and wonder if this is what Dennis felt like at the beginning of his end. Before the sorrow of losing Dennis can consume me, something slaps against the wall of the room with tremendous force. I assume this is just another of the monsters slithering along at the wall, but when I turn back towards the door, I hear something surprising. More bursts of a loud explosive noise start ringing out. Looking through the peephole again, I see a core of one of the beasts explode. It vanishes in a puff of smoke and clear liquid. Looking to my left, I see Barksdale in a shooting stance at the far side of the room. He's firing through a small slit in the wall. He's using some high-powered weapon the likes of which I've never seen. I see a slight movement as the gun kicks, accompanied by a flicker of white light. Immediately, another monster is down, its tentacles flailing around aimlessly as most of its core is torn through. I instantly feel gratitude and an immense satisfaction in knowing that they are being picked off in such a way. Sit down and rest. I slide down against the door and simply wait, listening to the occasional patter of what I assume is their blood on the wall. I don't know how much time passes, maybe 5 seconds, maybe 5 minutes, and I don't care. It feels nice to lay down, even with the sensation of blood rushing from my hurt shoulder. When the firing is over, I barely even notice it. Soon after, Barksdale walks back over to our side of the room. "They're all gone," Barksdale says, "and I have resealed the hangar doors." "How'd you kill them like that?" I ask. "Classified weapons, that. Quite frankly, you have no business being near." Amy gets to her feet and returns to the panel on the wall. "Thanks." "How badly is the civilian hurt?" Barksdale asks Amy, as if I'm not good enough for him to speak to.
"A nasty cut," Amy says. "If he gets some quick attention, he'll be okay."
"Okay, I'll have Strickland get a med kit."
"Strickland survived?"
Amy asks, sounding cheerful. "Yes, and until you and your friend showed up, I thought we were the only ones. Hang tight, she's on her way." With that he retreats away to the back of the room as if he can't stand to be around us. Amy approaches me and looks me over.
"You're in good hands. Strickland will be able to fix you up."
"Is she a doctor or something?"
"Sort of. She is also a physicist. But oddly enough, she spent time as a trauma nurse in the army."
"Is Strickland a friend of yours?" I ask.
Amy chuckles. "Yeah, we've known each other for a while. The only woman in a sea of overachieving men."
"Barksdale sounds like a prick."
"That's because he is," Amy says. "But he runs this place, so he sort of has the right."
Yeah, Washington, or a facility buried under the woods of Kentucky.
Gender rules stay the same, she says, rolling her eyes.
Within a few seconds, the door behind us opens and a woman appears from back further in the chamber. She enters the room with what looks like a small suitcase. She is dressed in a very basic and drab military getup, complete with a holstered sidearm.
"My name is Connie Strickland," she says, getting straight to the point. "I can patch you up pretty good, but it's going to hurt.
I nod, honestly not caring how much it hurts. My God, I just want to get out of here, to get home.
Sit down and let's see if we can get your shirt off,
Strickland says. I sit down slowly and start unbuttoning my shirt. She has to help me slip it off my shoulders, but we manage. How bad is it? I ask.
Bad, she said. It almost looks like a burn, but I've seen much worse.
I might as well talk to Strickland, if only to distract from the pain. What's your story? Strickland rolls her eyes as she gathers up a needle and some thread.
I always into fringe science. I started in labs where these eccentric Russian scientists were being funded by us to work and combining DNA types. I sort of became obsessed with perfecting human physiology while I was a trauma nurse in the army.
You're a mad scientist, then? I say.
I get that a lot, but no. Not compared to the stuff we do here.
What kind of stuff?
It's complicated. Common masses, quantum gravity, crunching things down into their Schwarzschild radiuses. Fun stuff.
Yeah, a mad scientist, I say, trying to keep myself calm with dry humor.
There are lots of small labs working on the same stuff, she urges. They just don't have our funding. When you guys ran in here, she says, I was horrified. Those barrels outside, I'm not sure if you saw them. Well, if you'd shot them, it could have been bad.
Why? I ask.
The grey ones are filled with an experimental fluid that is highly flammable. The yellow ones contain liquid nitrogen.
What? I ask. Just laying around?
Well, this area is the safest in the building, the most secure. Well, it used to be anyway. And take this,
she says, handing me 4 pills.
Painkillers. They won't work immediately, but they'll dull the worst of what you're feeling.
Are these the best idea? I ask. Won't they make me dizzy or out of sorts or something? All I get is, in response, is an annoyed and determined look.
Eh?
I feel like this was a bad thing. I dry swallow the pills as she starts working on me. She slathers the wound with some sort of liquid that stings like crazy, and I gasp. Grin and bear it.
Ready to stab me yet?
Strickland asks. I'm fine, I hiss. I wince as she dabs at my eye, swollen from where Marcus kicked me. I grit my teeth in pain and try to catch my breath. The anticipation is the worst part. I'm relieved to find that it doesn't hurt as much as I feared. It's no picnic for sure, but compared to the fire-like pain in my wound, it's bearable.
So, you and Barksdale are the only survivors?
Amy asks.
It seems that way. Those that didn't disappear into thin air were killed by those things,
Strickland says, nodding to the secured door.
Not that I've seen, Strickland says. If anyone else did make it, they're trapped out there with those things. I'm glad to see you. Where were you when it happened?
Amy asks.
It was in the microlab in level 2,
Strickland replies.
Park and O'Brien were in there with me and they just disappeared, I guess. It looked like they were being stretched, distorted, and then there was a ball of white light and they were gone. The ball of white light just annihilated everything it touched.
Would it leave a perfectly round hole? I ask, a light bulb turning on in my head. We saw some of those up at the logging site.
That was probably the same phenomenon,
Strickland replies. Amy looks like a child afraid to ask an adult for something. Finally she asks.
Where did they go? We don't know,
Strickland says.
It could be an infinite number of different dimensions, or even some dimensions that merge and mix together. It could also be a place that exists between dimensions. Barksdale calls it the void. I'd call it dead. I'm not gonna be a sarcastic little bitch. We don't know that just yet,
Strickland says.
Our understanding of space-time is evolving, especially when you start warping it like we have. Oh, especially when you start warping it like we have been doing, Amy adds. That point seems to be the end of the conversation as both women fall quiet. I wince through the rest of Strickland's stitching, feeling the tug of my skin, but thankfully no more flowing blood. Finally, Strickland says, "You're good to go." I slide my shirt back on, aware of the thick pad of gauze that Strickland applied to my shoulder. So, have you and Barksdale been able to contain all those creatures? Amy asks. Strickland appears shocked, clearly not the reaction Amy was expecting. Contain? Are you nuts? Do you not know what's happening? Amy's eyes widen in fearful confusion. What do you mean? What's happening? Other than the initial experiment failure. The anomalies are becoming more numerous and further from the source, Strickland says. The casual humor in her voice is now gone. From the location of the original experiment, she says. The experiment caused the first doorway to open, but it set off a chain reaction. They are gaining momentum along geodesics emanating from the facility. It's these pockets of exotic matter and negative energy that are letting those things in. What the hell does that mean? I ask. It means, Amy chimes in, that those doorways and monsters are starting to appear all over the facility. Maybe even the surface. Not yet, luckily, Strickland says. But the doorways will start appearing on the surface, and it won't stop there. The anomaly's reach could extend infinitely as far as we know. Those entities will appear on the surface, in other states, other countries. Holy shit, I say. You mean the world is going to be overrun? The horror of the past few hours has made me ready to believe anything, but this is almost too much. Unfortunately, yes, Strickland says. My God, Amy says, stepping away. Isn't there anything we can do? There is a last resort, Strickland says, her eyes darting over to Barksdale at the back of the room. There is an emergency fail-safe switch. What? Amy says. I never heard of that. Where? You weren't cleared for it, Strickland replies. And that switch, Amy says, is a way to stop this? Yes, Strickland says, seeming uneasy with the conversation. Oh god, it's a self-destruct. Well, there's two problems with hitting it, Strickland replies. The switch is our eraser. It destroys the entire facility and terminates any systems or experiments that are being conducted. It's also an emergency shutdown for interdimensional travel. It puts an event horizon around the facility. What the hell is that? I ask, incredulous. It's the perimeter of a black hole, she replies. The boundary inside which nothing can escape, not even light. So the first problem is we'd all be killed, sucked into a black hole before we'd have time to evacuate. The second reason, Strickland whispers suddenly quiet, is that Barksdale won't allow it. What? Amy gasps. Why not? He wants to allow those things to flood the surface? Thousands, millions will die. Strickland puts her hands up, silencing Amy. They both peer over to the far side of the room where Barksdale has his back turned. I know. He says he doesn't care. He says he'll be happy to be rid of the oversight, so he can continue his work. The oversight? Amy almost screams, regaining control over her voice when Strickland gives her another look of warning. You mean our government? I ask. He's aware this could disrupt, even topple the government, and he doesn't care? Strickland sighs. Barksdale is, well, he's off the range right now. He's gone rogue, and he's armed. This comment makes me look towards shotgun I brought in with me. I'd nearly forgotten it in the last few moments. While Barksdale has his back turned to us, I take it in my hand and slide it behind me. Just in time, too, as Barksdale walks over from the back of the room to our side of the chamber. He gives Strickland a suspicious look before speaking to her. Is the civilian going to survive? He asks. Yes, he's stitched up and good to go, Strickland replies. That's great news, Barksdale says. I'm sitting right here, I say sarcastically. You can actually speak to me, you know. Amy? It's quite nice to see that you have survived, he says. Were there any others? The aloof way this asshole is talking to us is getting under my skin. A guy named Marcus that works on the first level, from IT, Amy says. That's all I know for sure. Marcus Papscott, Barksdale says. Where is he? We're not sure, I say. He was separated from us. Oh, Barksdale replies, clearly taken aback by my stern reply. That's unfortunate. Barksdale seems to think about something and then looks directly at me. You're with the logging crew, aren't you? Remind me, how did you get here again? Fell through a hole. Ah, right. We lost our primary power source when the experiment failed, Barksdale says. The experiment failure created those exotic matter pockets, that hole you fell into. And if there were enough of them, it may have opened a way into our facility. Oh, depending on the power sources that were damaged, Barksdale continued, it could have also shut down the locking systems before backups kicked in. Everything is starting to make sense now. From the very start, it had seemed peculiar that we'd been so easily able to walk into a place like this. What caused the experiment to fail? Your crew hit one of our main power lines. We aren't sure exactly how, but we know that's what did it. You're trying to blame all this on me? I roar. The timing was unfortunate, Barksdale says. Where's the rest of our crew? Your crew? Barksdale asks. Frank and Joe? They're gone. Gone? Gone where? I ask, my voice trembling. Hearing him speak the names of my crew enrages me. They were annihilated by antimatter, pockets created during the failure, a bright ball of light. In the aftermath, all you'd see would be a round hole in the ground. Barksdale says this like he's sharing yesterday's sports scores. I let my face crumble into my hands. I'd suspected this all this time, and they were already dead. So, Amy asks, what do we do now? Now it's time to continue our work, Barksdale says calmly, turning away to the instruments on the near wall. There's no winning with this. This guy sounds like a complete lunatic, but he's a lunatic that's accustomed to power and armed with some type of advanced weaponry. So I keep my intentions unspoken, assuming Barksdale is used to going unchallenged by people he considers beneath him. He certainly seems like that type. I want to continue my work, Barksdale muses. Other researchers will eventually discover what we have, sure. But I want to be me. I want it to be me. This is my laboratory. These are my experiments. The work I've led here will earn me my place in history. And quite frankly, I don't need to explain it to you. Up on the surface, they'll struggle to defend themselves. Since they won't know what they're dealing with, I have the necessary weapons. After a few months, who knows? Maybe I'll decide the world is ready for me to help them, and we'll go from there. He turns his back to us and he says this, walking to the far side of the chamber like he were some kind of distraction. Amy takes this opportunity to whisper to us. We need to hit the switch, she says. It's the only option. That what he's saying is murder, treason, genocide. She looks over to Strickland for support, trailing off. But Strickland looks to the ground, clearly torn. She won't look anyone in the eye, and makes an effort not to look at Barksdale. He seems distracted with whatever instruments he's studying on the far side of the room. The dreamlike quality of the quality I experienced earlier is wearing off. The painkillers seem to be losing their edge. Strickland finally whispers a response. Even if we decide that we want to hit that switch, Barksdale won't allow us. To hell with him. Amy agrees. Where is the switch located? She asks. There's an elevator out in the hangar. Strickland says, take it to the basement. The switch is at the end of the long tunnel. But Strickland never finishes. Two things happen at once as she speaks, her mouth stopping in mid-sentence. First, a loud booming noise rings out, and then the top of her head seems to explode. Amy screams out in surprise, and I jump back in shock as Strickland's body collapses beside me.
Behind her fallen body, Barksdale is holding his experimental rifle, and now he's pointing it at us. Oh, shit! Where are we here? Oh, I see the difference. I wonder if Barksdale is even crazier than Marcus. He just shot a woman that worked for him to keep her quiet. Surely he won't have an issue with killing me. Now! Barksdale yells. No more whispering, no more secrets. You two will stay in here. And to get away from that door, if anyone whispers one more thing, I'll blow your heads off. My mind is racing to figure out a way to get through the secured door and into the hangar. Beyond that, of course, there was the failsafe switch. Yeah, that's gonna work. With no other ideas, I resort to something I know that how to do well. Be noisy. You moron, I say. For someone in such a position of power, you think like an idiot. Kill me, go ahead. But then you better get someone out into those woods to move my equipment. You really want the police snooping around to wreck the logging site for missing loggers? If someone as dumb as me found my way into your little hideout, my rant is having its intended effect. Barksdale's teeth clench and rage fills his eyes. You're a fool, he shouts. You don't have the slightest idea how difficult the work we do here is. How advanced the world changing. How advanced and world changing. Keep him talking. You scientists, you think you're so smart, I interrupt. But you have no common sense. All the knowledge in the world is useless if you have no moral compass. Barksdale is starting to lose control. His breathing intensifies. If you think for one moment that you could do... As quickly as I can, I raise my gun and fire. I don't even take aim. I just fire in Barksdale's general direction. Barksdale takes off, running, as my shot misses wide. He runs for cover to the back of the room. That's all we need. Amy also fires a shot to keep him under cover as we head for the door. Amy pushes a button and the door swings open. Barksdale will be on us in a second, so we dash out into the hangar, ready to defend ourselves. Shit, so we're gonna have a gunfight in the middle of, like, what the shit? Amy and I run as fast as we can through the rows of barrels. Barksdale comes charging out of the chamber almost immediately. As he steps onto the hangar floor, he starts shooting. Each shot sends a jolt of fear through me as I wait for a bullet to end my life. We need to get to the elevator on the far end of the side of the room, Amy tells me. It leads down below to the switch. Fend off Barksdale first, I mean. We both lean out from the cover of the barrels and take several shots at Barksdale. He steps back into the isolation chamber, which gives me a sense of victory. But then I realize he may just be reloading whatever high-powered weapon he has. We need to move, I say. Agreed, Amy says. We both take off at a full sprint for the other side of the hangar. Somehow I make it through the rows of barrels and get to the elevator's entrance. I turn back to allow Amy to enter first, but she isn't there. I look back into the barrels and see that she has fallen about halfway down the row. She doesn't appear to be hurt, but she is paralyzed with fear, sitting motionlessly as Barksdale peppers the area with gunfire. Shoot at Barksdale. I step back out and try to get a clean shot at Barksdale, but the angle is all wrong. I try my best to get off a shot, but it's not anywhere near him. Barksdale doesn't even flinch. I'll have to help Amy from here. I then remember the contents of the barrels. One color has highly flammable fuel. The other contains liquid nitrogen. I'm no scientist, but I'm pretty sure liquid nitrogen is mostly harmless unless you have direct contact. If one of those barrels gets shot and the liquid nitrogen spills out, I'm fairly positive it will simply evaporate. That could create a cover of sorts for Amy, like a smoke cloud. Ah, hell. But which of the barrels holds liquid nitrogen? Strickland told us, but I can't remember. I have to remember quickly or Barksdale is going to get careless with his shooting and we all could die. Yellow barrels. Yellow barrels are the liquid nitrogen. I remember that. Yep. Here we go. Ready? The yellow barrels. I'm fairly certain those have the liquid nitrogen in them. Without giving myself a single moment to second guess myself, I aim at one and pull the trigger. There's a pinging noise, followed by a hiss. A stream of liquid nitrogen spills out and begins to evaporate immediately. Amy looks around for a moment, clearly baffled, but then figures out what I've done. She hits the ground right away for a moment. I lose sight of her in the cloud of mist. Behind us, Barksdale starts the fire, apparently not caring if he happens to hit one of the barrels with fuel in it. Moments later, I see Amy's shape emerge from the mist. There's a terrifying second where she's out of the mist and in the exposed space between the barrels and the protection offered by the elevator's interior. Barksdale gets off 2 shots, but the nitrogen mist has obscured his vision too much for him to get a proper aim. However, one of them nicks Amy's leg, sending her tumbling just before she reaches the entryway to the elevator. I dash out, lift her up, and we both hobble over to the elevator behind the cover of the mist.
Thanks. Thank God you remembered which barrel was which,
she says. I reach out and press the call button on the elevator. We both step inside and close the doors. It's a terrible service elevator, made of wood and metal, like something from a coal mine. We step inside and the doors close. The motors on the elevator sound like dying dogs. As the elevator slides down, the light from the flames give way to complete blackness.
Holy shit, I've been doing this for like an hour. Oh my god. Why the long episode? Why the long chapter? I can't even, jump ahead. I lose track of how long the elevator descends. It's hard to tell due to the lack of lighting, but it must go another 500 feet underground. The elevator comes to a stop with a shuddering clang, and I waste no time exiting. A tunnel stretches out with sparse white bulbs lighting the way. Most of the wall is made of raw earth and rock, but there are boards and concrete slathered in areas used to reinforce the tunnel. I see a warning sign posted on the wall. I want to read it, but there's not much time. That's going to be important later. Warning. Authorized personnel only beyond this point. Trespassers will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Absolutely no exceptions. Well, glad we got that out of the way, now that everyone is dead. Suddenly I feel the effects of the painkillers again. My head feels like a balloon and my balance is off kilter. I look up, and when I see that the tunnel's ceiling is less than 6 inches over my head, claustrophobia freezes me for a moment. The ceiling is not high at all, and there is barely enough room for Amy and I to walk side by side, which is for the best, because her leg is clearly causing her a great deal of pain. She's soaked in blood and hobbling along. I don't think I can go any further, she says, wincing but trying to keep her composure. Sit down, I tell her. I'll be back. There's no sense in chancing further injury to your leg. She nods and I help her down. She shudders in pain as she eases into the sitting position on the floor. Thanks, she says. According to Strickland, the switch should be at the end of this hall. I look up, and when I see that the tunnel's ceiling is less than 6 inches over my head, claustrophobia freezes me for a moment. Still, it's much better than facing the monsters above me. I wonder then, walking through the darkness, where they came from. Is the portal still open? I hold the gun in one hand and feel my way along the wall with the other. The wall under my palm anchors me to reality, to sanity. I am not in some boundless abyss, but still in the real world, for another while longer at least. I recognize that I am marching to my end. As much as I wish I weren't, it's not surprising. From the moment I saw what those creatures could do to time and space, at least a part of me knew that death was inevitable. Before I have time to wonder whether my family will really miss me, I see a light ahead. It's nothing more than a speck of blue light, but in the darkness of the tunnel, it's like a lighthouse on a stormy sea. I slog forward, my eyes straining to focus on that little light ahead. From somewhere ahead, I start to hear something that sounds like water. It is trickling lightly like a leaky faucet, and behind that, there is something that sounds like wind. A light breeze through an open field, and a voice. Anywhere else, the sounds would have been pleasant, but here in the blackness of the tunnel, they're menacing. Hello! My voice doesn't echo like it should in this small space. This weirds me out even more than the lack of response. I cock my head, trying to concentrate, and then realize that I can see the tunnel walls now. This is odd, as I wasn't able to see them a few seconds ago. This is different from the blue light at the end of the tunnel. It's then that I see the sunlight, the light shimmering in the air. It looks like a foggy mirror steamed over after a shower. And it's moving, dancing in the air like some abstract firefly. It's not menacing like the creatures, so that threat is known. It's peaceful, serene. I watch as this shimmer branches out and becomes 2, then 3, then 4. They snake out in different directions, tracing the tunnel walls. Are these shimmers the doors to another dimension that Strickland was talking about? Suddenly I'm surrounded by light above and below me and realize there's no avoiding it. The question is, how am I going through? Going feet first. Unable to resist, I step forward to where the tunnel wall should be. When I do, those shimmering lights branch out even more before connecting in one perfect circular form. They're hypnotizing. So much so that I don't realize that the tunnel walls are vanishing. I feel something like wind and a brief electrical pulse pass through me as the lights take me. There is then a very gentle pushing sensation and I somehow know that I am being expelled. I have passed through something. Maybe the lights. Maybe the tunnel walls. I don't know. But the shimmering lights fade a bit, still dancing in the air but no longer large and branching out. And as my eyes adjust, I see right away that I am no longer standing in that dark tunnel far beneath the hangar. I have no idea where I am. I'm just somewhere else. I'm terrified.
That would have been a great place to end the chapter. Whoa! I'm in hell. The ground I land on looks like hot coals. There are dips and many cliffs breaking the landscape ahead of me. There's a wash of orange and blue overhead and a shaky in a sky that makes no sense. It is both beautiful and terrifying at once. A scattering of stars hang overhead and they all seem to be breathing, pulsing with a gentle energy as if alive. I can't tell if there are clouds in the sky because everything about it, from the colors to the trembling horizon line, seems to be amorphous. Everything is knitted together, living. I stare a moment longer and can swear I feel the sky breathing. Far off to my right I see what looks like a plume of fire, small yet bright, with no source of fuel. It looks as if the ground itself is creating the flame. Several more of these flames dot the landscape further out. The air is thick and muggy. Then I realize something horrible. I don't know if what I'm breathing here resembles air at all. In a place like this, one of impossible beauty, but also very stark horror, my mind doesn't know what to do. I have a wave of nausea comes over me and I think I might be sick. I'm not sure if it would be better to fight it or to give in. The white light that brought me here is nowhere to be found. Is anyone else even here? Is there any way to escape? I continue to look out at the nightmarish landscape and see a few other unexplainable oddities. There are billowing flames in the distance, not like a volcano or explosion, just some kind of slow heat crawling towards that defies reality. This analogy seems even more fitting when I see the thin vein-like roots of the fire twisting into the ground and then darting back out into all directions. I get that sick feeling again in my gut and realize my mind just needs something to focus on. It's then that I hear a voice. It is faint, distant. I turn to hear it coming out of one of the massive crevices along the ground. Inside of that crack, about 10 feet down, a very pale man lies on the ledge. He is human, but he looks close to death. He is in the center of a large pool of blood, and his left leg has been twisted and torn in an unnatural way. As I walk to the ledge, he looks up at me and sees me.
Help me, please,
the man says. His eyes are wide, although everything about him speaks of weakness. He is close to death or insanity, or both. What is this place?
I don't know. We are outside of our home galaxy. Possibly even our home universe. Please, help.
I want to know more, but it seems cruel to steal what looks like his last breaths just to answer my question. I'd love to respond, but I don't know where the hell I am or how to get back home.
Light,
He says.
it's a doorway. It might take you back to the facility.
Where did it go?
They come and go. back. Please, help me.
I desperately want to help, but there's no way I can reach him. His ledge is too far away, above the pools of fire. I don't think I can get you to you, I say.
No, that's not what I mean.
He replies. His eyes are on the shotgun that I almost forget I am still holding. I realize that he wants, and I realize what he wants, and I shake my head. I can't, I say. I can't do that.
Please.
He pleads.
Those things, they have the others that came here with me. I got dropped along the way. They'll be back. They'll be back and they'll kill me.
That, he says again, indicating the gun.
It'll be quicker. Less painful.
I can't, I repeat.
Please.
Look at my damn leg. I'm dead anyway. I'm about to refuse him again when I hear an all too familiar static sound from another crevice behind him. I hear another of those shrill noises and then watch as one of the monsters materializes out of the neighboring crevice. 2 more come out after it, then a third, then 5, then 10. Soon I lose count as what was just a few turns into a flood, and I suddenly understand the man's reasoning. A bullet would be a mercy. I check the gun and see that I only have 1 round left. I can use it on this guy, but I may need it for myself later. From beside me, the man pleads again.
My God.
He says, a waver of lunacy in his voice.
Please.
I guess we're gonna have to just shoot him. Because the gun's not gonna work anyway. It's not. I look back to the man and wince. I know it's the right thing to do, but my finger resists. With a roar of disgust, I level the gun towards his head, turn my eyes away, and then pull the trigger. Your aim is true. The man crumples lifelessly to the ground. And that's when I see those shimmers wavering to my right, in the direction I originally came from. I look back to the monsters and see that they have now noticed me. Some of them begin floating up the walls of the crevice, where there are less than 10 feet separating us. The shimmers of white light are within arm's reach, its movements reminding me of a fish in an aquarium. I reach out and feel myself accepted by them again. I feel the sensation of wind and wait for that feeling of being pushed out, back to the tunnel in the facility. But it doesn't come this time. This time I feel something else. I feel a tugging sensation that seems to want to drag me in all directions at once. As the world goes dark, I realize that I am somewhere else, and it is not the darkness of the tunnel. This is the darkness of a total void. Ah, shit, I'm in the void. This is like the... Oh, wow. My God. An hour 13. I've been playing this like an hour... For this episode is like an hour 10 minutes. There's darkness around me everywhere. Nothingness. I feel nothing under my feet. Nothing to my sides. I can't touch or sense anything at all. I don't even know which way is up or down. It's as though I am all that exists, and I remain there. I just hear silence, not even the sound of my heartbeat. The blackness is so deep that I feel I can't distinguish between my thoughts and what is real. I hear screaming, but I can't tell if it's someone else or my mind screaming to fill this void. I try to kick and move my arms. It's not working. But it's not clear in what way it's not working. Are my limbs not moving? Or have they gone numb? It's impossible to tell. My body has just become absent of all sensation. I assume this is the place that Strickland referred to, the place between dimensions. This darkness could consume me if it wanted to. I try to will myself out of it, to have those shimmering lights spit me out, but it isn't happening. At this point, my mind starts to hallucinate, or at least I think it does. Are they visions? My mind playing tricks on me? I can't tell. All I can do is watch. I see the logging site. There's an image of Tony's lifeless body after I pulled it from under the bulldozer. I see myself talking to Dennis, and he looks distraught as I tell him that Tony is gone. Then the scene rearranges itself, and I'm standing between Dennis and Marcus's gun. It changes again, and the shape of Marcus lies on the ground, still hell-bent on revenge, even after I let him live. In my mind, I'm sobbing as I watched Dennis get torn apart by those monsters all over again, and I just stood by and watched. And I am calmed a bit as I watch myself shoot the right barrel in helping Amy to safety,
And just when I feel like I can't take any more of this, I see the man in that strange world begging for death. I watch as I take his life just before those beasts reach him. All of these things are flooding my mind, and it feels like my brain is vomiting. Yet in the midst of it all, I see what's really important. The switch. In my mind's eye, I see that glowing light in the tunnel, the one far ahead, small and distant. Try to focus on it. I focus my mind on the tunnel and the image of the flickering light. With a mental effort so strong that it is nearly a physical motion, I make myself envision that little light in the tunnel, as if it were right there in front of me. With that, I feel the wind again, a light breeze that seems to come from everywhere. And then, with a relief that I can only imagine feels like death, I move forward. Ah, damn it. Such a long chapter. I'm ejected from the void and I'm suddenly standing in the tunnel again. I let out a wail of triumph that turns into a bout of weeping. The weeping only intensifies when I see that light up ahead, a flickering blue light. Somewhere behind me I hear a crackling noise. I think of Amy down that way by the elevator. Have they reached her? There is no way I can find out, for now. For now I have to keep on with my plan. Besides, if it works, we're all gone anyway. I feel like I can listen to get a better read on where they are, or I can just make a break for it. Run to the blue light! I don't even bother looking back. There's no time. Instead, I run with all of my might straight ahead, my focus on that little blue light ahead of me. As I run, I see a different light, a white one, flickering in my peripheral vision. It's another of those shimmers that go to other worlds. It seems they are appearing and disappearing with more frequency now. Strickland was right. These things could reach the surface soon, unleashing more monsters. This thought makes me refocus on the blue light, the man-made light, the switch. The blue light gets closer, and as it does, I can make out a square shape around it. This has to be it. The familiar static scream of the monsters is much closer now. I have to be quick. I grip the gun tightly, regretting my decision to use the last bullet on the man in the other world. Looks like all I'll be using this for is as a bludgeon. I run ahead into the darkness, my eyes locked on the switch that I assume is going to kill not only the creatures, but myself as well. As I approach, I see the lever. It's covered by a glass box that I will need to break. The blue light is directly beneath this, highlighting a series of tubes and wires that snake into the inner workings of the device. In the middle is blackness, not like a darkly colored part of the machine, but just a hole in reality. It looks like some sort of illusion. All the while, I can hear the static of the creatures coming up dangerously close now. I have no idea how much time I have.
Okay, see, it sounded like this was supposed to be like 5 chapters, but this is reading to be the last chapter.
I draw back the stock of the gun and smash through the glass box that houses the lever. The glass shattering is like music to my ears. I reach out for the lever, my hand grasping it. Without warming, I feel an immense pain course through my body. It feels like fire racing down my back, causing me to fall to one knee in agony. There's only one of them. That I can see. It blasts horrible static noise at me as I ready my gun. With no bullets left, I get ready to use it as a club. I try to strike. The monster bats the gun away, warping it into an S shape. It then follows up by swinging its appendages at me. The sting of its touch forces me back against the side of the cavern, my face striking the wall hard. My jaw crunches and I feel a sharp pain encompass my head. Then the creature is upon me again. Its tentacles melt into me as I scream. I can't help it. I sound like a wild animal. I can try to keep fending them off, or I can go for broke and just focus on the lever. Creatures be damned. Spring for the lever. I put all my strength into my legs. The moment the monster in front of me draws back its eel-like arms to grab me, I pivot backwards. My back strikes the machine, sending agony ricketing through my body. I'm so thankful I broke the glass before this moment, before the coming violence. I stretch out and grab the lever. With one last desperate scream that shreds my voice, I jam it down. The tunnel is suddenly filled with a flash of intense darkness. It expands from the switch, swallowing the matter around it. At first, I'm sure this is the end of me. I expect the darkness to consume me, followed by death. But then another shimmer of dancing white light appears next to me. There are more of those streams of light, rips in space like the ones that previously sent me to that other ungodly world and the void. With nothing else to do but die, I try to escape into the shimmer. When that stream of light envelops me, the expanding darkness of the switch is gone, and I feel a huge push. Oh my god, it's still oh wow, that's mystical. Shot me out into space? My body feels stretched, collapsing like I'm falling in all directions at once. The world goes white, and then there are the pinpoints of stars everywhere. One of them breezes directly by my right, and I see something that looks like a spiral galaxy distorted in its folds. To my right, I see an endless stretch of stars and gas clouds, forming some galactic architecture. But beyond the immeasurable beauty, I notice something. I am seeing the same star patterns over and over. They are repeating like reflections in an endless mirror. Are these our different versions of the same galaxies? The same realities? To my left, I see a calm blue world and can barely make out trees. Familiar Kentucky trees that I have been around for the last few weeks. To my right, I see a copy, an orange world, and there are trees there as well. But something is strange, disturbing. As I zoom by, I'm not sure how much control I have in this unusual place, but if I can direct myself, it's worth trying. Blue world. I try to focus my mind on heading towards the blue world, not knowing what to expect. My breath escapes me for a moment. Everything is dark and peaceful, and nothing hurts. I just die? Ah, I'm back here. With breath back inside my body, I gasp and open my eyes. I'm back. Back at the logging site. How? I'm not sure. Did the shimmers react with the implosion of the switch? Some other accident? I have no idea. I sit up right away and become instantly dizzy. Amy, I say. There's no reason to think that she survived whatever happened in that tunnel, but there's some sort of certainty that gets me to my feet. I wonder if I am somehow back in time, before we found the facility. But what happens next makes me realize that can't be true. As I start walking forward, I feel a tremor in the ground. Somewhere off in the distance, I hear a metallic groan. The buried facility is being ripped apart under the ground by the activation of the switch. Trees are splintering and falling to the east, and I can see them toppling just like dominoes. There's no way Barksdale and Marcus survived. Good riddance. I start to walk away in the opposite direction of the falling trees, but then I hear a scream. A woman's scream. I turn back and see a stumbling figure come out of the forest. It's Amy, and she looks like a ghost. How is she here? Did she fall into one of the shimmers as well? I decide I don't care and run to her. I throw my arm under her armpit to hook her up to me as we head back to the logging site. You okay? I ask. Amy can only nod through her tears. I look to the area where the facility tore the woods apart and see a large plume of smoke rising up into the air. We've made it out of the facility alive, and that, I suppose, is the most important thing. It's then that I look up and notice the sky. We're not on Earth. What? The sky is beautiful and familiar, unobstructed by the trees that had been standing several minutes ago. I exhale and let my body start to relax. It's finally over. I'm not sure how long it will take me to get back to some semblance of a life, but I know one thing for sure. Any day above the ground is going to be a good day. So there we have it. That was Buried. I have finished it. Holy fucking shit. What? An hour 30. I have been playing this for an hour and 30 minutes. 36% of players decide to take the painkillers? Really? Holy shit. 62%. Okay. The right barrel. Good. Oh, wow. So people actually killed Amy. Oh. 30% mercifully killed the man. Oh. 83. Nice. Okay. Oh, that's it. Okay.
So that is all for Buried. Thank you for watching this episode of Buried. I'm so sorry that it is so fucking long. If you trooped it all the way to this, put your name down in the comments below. I am going to read your name out and congratulate you in the next video I do. Like, seriously, thank you so much for trooping through this entire video. Also, if you liked this video, hit the like button down below. And if you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button so you can see all the awesome videos I'm doing. I mean, I'm doing Let's Plays for a game called Detention. Tomorrow I'll be starting up Let's Plays for a game called iRec and also Hollowed Hallway. Those seem like really awesome horror games, which I can't wait to play. Just I've been really happy lately with this channel because it seems like finally things are going right with it. I'm saying this, and I should probably knock on like wood or something, because just everything is. I've never been happier with this channel. Really, it's really awesome to see that there is some people watching these now, and I'm really glad that people are paying attention to this and checking it out. And I highly encourage you guys to subscribe, because if you like videos like this, or like videos I've done in the past, like, you will like what I'm going to do in the future. So please subscribe, please keep on watching, because it means the world to me that people are watching. And yeah, with that being said, till next time, stay radical, my radicals. See